Hi guys, Tracy here with another scrapbooking process video. Today I'm doing another project for International Scrapbooking Day. Today I am making a layout based on the recipe challenge, so if you're interested in playing along with this one and perhaps winning a prize and being eligible to win a prize, you can check out our Facebook group because the challenge is going on all day, all International Scrapbooking Day that is. I'm also going to be using a sketch from Creative Scrappers, which is run by Christine Davidson, who was generous enough to give us 4 sketches to work with for the day. And I'm also going to be using a hip kit from the month of April of 2017. One of the aspects of this recipe challenge is to use one of these 4 color schemes. So I'm going to be using the one in the top right-hand corner, which has yellow and orange and pink and blue. And there is also green in that as well, but I'm sticking to the blue instead. So I have this photo here of my daughter on the last day of my other daughter's play, and I'm going to be using this sketch here from Creative Scrappers, and I'm just going to basically pretend that those 2 stacked horizontal photos are my one vertical photo, which is 4x6. So mine is going to have a little bit more space. And so see that gray spot behind the photo? I'm thinking about using this orange and this triangle orange paper with a white background. And then I saw this plus paper, and I like the plus design better, and it brings in more elements of the color scheme. So it has yellow and blue and pink and orange all in those are the colors of the plus signs in that pattern paper. So I'm going to use that as that gray part in the background. And you'll notice on the sketch that the gray part is actually 2 vertical strips, and I'm just going to make it into 1 vertical strip. Now this recipe calls for 3 pieces of patterned paper, and so far I have picked out 2, but I have another one in mind that's actually not part of the hip kit for this month. The other thing is that this sketch calls for a piece of cardstock, so I'm going to use that blue cardstock that pulls in the blue from the color scheme, and I'm just making a little note here of which color scheme I'm using, and that this pattern paper has all of the colors in that color scheme except for the green, and that's okay. There will be a tiny bit of green on this project to technically fulfill the requirements of that color scheme. Now this is the pattern paper that I had in mind for this layout. I really wanted to use this because it's a Felicity Jane paper from the, what is it called? I think it's called the Essentials collection, which is a bunch of black and white pattern papers. And I really love it because it adds just a little bit of bold detail to this paper, to this page, which will otherwise not have very many bold elements. It's going to have lots of white and lots of bright colors, but it's not going to have any really high contrast parts on it. So that's what that photo mat will do. So that's my 3rd piece of pattern paper, and I just have my list here. I'm checking off that I've used the 3 pattern papers, I've used the cardstock, and I have the color scheme going on here. So now see how the sketch calls for a large circle in behind the photos? And I just have one, of course, one photo. So I'm going to make the circle be made out of this blue cardstock. And another element of this recipe is to use texture. And the recipe says to use texture with tissue or corrugated cardboard or bubble wrap or burlap, etc. And so I'm going to do the etc. by using an embossing folder to add texture. So first I'm going to cut a circle out of this, and it's always hard for me to judge how big of a circle I want. I actually want the circle to be the size of that inside smaller circle, but you can't cut it exactly that size. It's going to be a little bit smaller than that if I cut it with that particular circle cutting template. So I'm going to use the larger circle cutting template, but I'm using the smaller one as a guide to decide exactly how big I want my circle to be. This cutting tool is called a Cutter Bee Curvy Cutter, and it's by EK Success, and it's an older tool. There are lots of different options for cutting circles on the market, but this is the one that I have in my stash, and it works just fine, especially if you use a glass cutting mat with it. If you use a what is that called, a self-healing mat, it is much harder to use. So I do recommend that you use a glass cutting mat. Now take a look at the sketch and how it has all of those circles. And I am basically I'm punching a bunch of circles here with the idea that I will probably replace these with embellishments, but I'm just basically using them to hold the space on the page and to keep, I guess, to keep the idea in mind that I'm going to have a cluster kind of off to the left of the main photo and embellishments. And then I'm also going to have another cluster way up in the top left-hand corner. And I used a hole punch there that for scale, I just used a tiny hole punch, and it doesn't work very well. So anyhow, that's why I was digging it out. So I only have one embossing folder that is big enough to emboss this whole circle. So it is this Falling Petals embossing folder from Stampin' Up. And I am going to use some Freckled Fawn Yeti ink. And I'm actually going to put the ink on the embossing folder. And it's going to be messy, so I better grab myself a little nonstick mat here. So there you go. I'm just using my Hottie Swap one. And I'm just, you know, patting the ink right onto the embossing folder and kind of rubbing it around to get it to really stick to the embossing folder. And now I'm putting my paper in place, and I'm just going to run that through my Big Shot. And now it's a very, very subtle difference, but the background is a very, very slightly more white blue, like I guess a slightly lighter blue than the embossed hearts. And again, I'm making a bit of a mess here, so I grabbed my nonstick mat again, and I'm just using baby wipes to clean my embossing folder. That pigment ink that I use, that Lawn Fawn pigment ink, if you don't clean it up, it will get the next thing that you emboss. It will leave white marks on it. It's not a huge deal, but I do like to clean up my folder so that it doesn't leave ink the next time. I'm just going to hit that with my heat gun just to make sure that it's absolutely dry and I don't get any white marks on my fingertips, and then transfer those white marks onto anything else on my project. And you can see that that is a very, very subtle detail, the white ink, but I very much like it. It adds such a nice finished touch to an embossed piece of cardstock. I really do like it. Now, I am going to outline these papers, and so I just grabbed a scrap from my desk. And for this, I'm using my Pentel, what is it called again? Let me just grab it. It's the Pentel Energel Liquid Gel Ink Pen, and when I try to use that same ink for outlining the circle, I have a couple of problems with that. One is the bumpy surface is a little bit more difficult to outline, and the second, because it's embossed, and the second is that pigment ink is really not a great surface on which to use a gel pen. So I decided to finish, and now for my second outline, because I did two outlines on the rectangle, so I want two outlines on this. For my second outline, just to make it easy, I used my Sharpie pen. Not my Sharpie marker, but my Sharpie pen, which worked fine over that ink. And now I'm just positioning this so that you can see some of the pink and yellow faux painted marks on that background paper. I'm positioning the rectangle so that you can see some of that on all of the sides of that rectangle. Now that background paper, again, it came in the Hip Kit for April, and that is from Paige Evans, from the Pink Paisley Paige Evans collection, whatever the most recent one is. And then that Plus patterned paper is from Pink Fresh. It's from the Live More collection. And of course, that black and white striped paper that I matted the photo with is from Felicity Jane. I thought about using this Bella Boulevard word that says smile. It's not going to be part of my title. I've decided right from the beginning that this one is going to be called BTS Girl, and the sketch calls for the title being down here. I'm following this sketch really, really closely. I'm just noticing that the letter stickers are quite a bit of a different shade of blue than my background than that big circle that I cut out of cardstock, but I think it's going to be okay because I'm going to use several different shades of a similar color of blue. Now, these letter stickers are from Pink Fresh Studio. They came in the kit, and I really, really love them. So I'm just going to spell out the word girl. And then I'm going to have to shift everything up to accommodate it. Now, I thought about moving my title up to here, but that is going to throw off the balance. I don't want to cluster around the title there, but I do want to cluster around the title. So if I want to cluster around the title, I'm going to have to put it down here because I want this layout to have a diagonal look. And if I cluster up on that other corner of the photo, it's not going to land in the places that I want it to land. So I'm just going to put it here. And I definitely want a piece of this black and white striped washi tape that comes in the kit. I definitely want a piece of this down here, but I'm playing around with where it might go. And I thought about maybe putting a chunk of it there, but that's not really the look that I had in mind. These are some embellishments from the Project Life or Pocket kit from Hip Kit from April, and I'm just going to use the flare badge. The flare says yay, I think. Yeah, it says yay or yeah. Yeah, it says yeah. And so I'm just going to glue this down using my ATG, and I'm positioning it so that the descender on the G in girl will fit. And I'm actually going to scooch everything up in just a moment, and I'm trying to make the circle so that some of the circle is below my photo and also over to the left of the photo. And I'm basically wanting there to be room for that leatherette sticker from Pink Fresh Studio with the camera to fit in front of the word girl. Oh, and I lost the T, but I am going to end up finding the T, so that's okay. I'm starting with the I because it's the trickiest to place just because of its relativity to the other letters. And then I'm placing the R and the L and then finally the G. And then that camera is going to go right there. I want my title to look like it's nestled amongst a bunch of embellishments. So I place my title first, and then I'll put some embellishments around it to make it look like it's just at home there. I'm adding some black outlining with my Stettler Lumo Color, which is a slick surface writer. You need to use slick surface writer on those leatherette stickers because they are a slick surface. And then it just takes a little bit of attention here to pull the adhesive backing off of the letter stickers. These are Hip Kit Club exclusive letter stickers this month, and I really love the combination of the block that looks like it's dipped in gold and then that scripty cursive letter sticker. The two of them look so wonderful together. I just love the contrast. So I am going to come back to that cluster, and so here I'm going to replace that circle with this rainbow sticker, and this is a layered chipboard sticker from Pink Fresh Studio. I quite like it. I like the cloud, and I am going to repeat the cloud motif in another spot. And now I'm going to replace one of those other circle sticker or just circle placeholders that I punched at the beginning with a flare badge. And I'm sorry that some of this is out of frame, but I will zoom out, I hope, pretty soon. And I'm just adding some more of those pleatherette letter stickers, or leatherette letters, or not letter stickers, but stickers. I want something under the IRL in girl, but not that little sticker I had. I'm going to shift everything over to the left, all of this cluster over to the left, and then that other cluster can move a little bit over to the right. That is the cluster that's up at the top, but I haven't moved it quite yet. Now here I'm going to cut a little piece, a little thin strip of that washi tape, and that's what will go under the IRL, and it just lines up nicely with the camera on the other side. I'm adding some outlining to this leatherette sticker and adding more black outlining to some of the other leatherette stickers just to bring a touch of black to each of those clusters, and more outlining. And again, I'm using my Stettler Lumo Color pen for all of that outlining so that it doesn't smudge or smear. I love this sticker. It's my favorite sticker in the whole entire kit. I love it. It says, "Let your light shine," and I just love those dangly light bulbs. There are a couple of different collections that have that icon, and I really love the look of it. So this is the first time I've gotten to use it. So I'm just layering it behind the flare badge, adding another one of those layered chipboard stickers from Pink Fresh. And I went to my stash to try to find something kind of large-ish to put in that space beside her face where that big empty space is that is filled with the blue circle that's embossed. And so I pulled out last month's kit, that is the March kit, and there are these cute little flags from Dear Lizzie. I loved this embellishment and I didn't use them all. There were 2 left. So I thought if I switched one around, I had to move the foam adhesive from one side of those flags to the other. And then I'm also layering it with one of these Chamel stickers that says Adventure, but I'm going to mostly cover it up. You can still read that it says Adventure. And I'm also adding a cloud. I'm going to outline it first so that it stands out a little bit because I'm layering blue on almost the same color of blue. So outlining helps to give it a little bit of definition. And then I'm also going to add some raindrops. And in this case, raindrops don't signify sadness or bad luck or anything. They just, because it's a spring play, it was held in the last week of April. So I was just kind of playing around with some of the other clouds just to see if another cloud would add different impact, but I ended up liking the blue cloud. And here I am shifting all of these over like I said I would. Spoiler alert, I know how this one ends, so I can kind of give you guys the heads up. Yeah, so I outlined the not teardrops, but the raindrops as well. And again, those just signify the spring. And then I headed over to my typewriter. I forgot to bring you guys with me, so sorry about that. But I just typed this up on my We Are Memory Keepers typecast typewriter. And I made a couple of mistakes there, but that's okay. So I put silver lining on the cloud, and it's not exactly relevant, but it's sort of relevant. I just wanted to make the cloud look a little bit more like it fit with the story that I'm telling. And it's basically the story of this layout as I just trim down these journaling strips. The story is that although Sophie is not one to take center stage, she doesn't like a lot of attention, I guess the silver lining to that kind of a personality is that she's very helpful and loves to help behind the scenes. She had no problem at all with working the canteen and making change. And it's a really busy canteen, like because the intermission is only 15 minutes and there's tons of people, like more than 100 people, all trying to get their snacks. And there's about 5 people working the canteen. And so she works the canteens, and she also sold roses, which was a little bit outside of her comfort zone because you have to kind of mingle in the crowd as they're sitting down and try to sell the flowers, and you're holding a bucket filled with flowers and they're tipping over and stuff like that. So it's a little bit of a trickier and more of a socially demanding job. And she did a really great job, so I was really proud of her. And the journaling just says, Soph doesn't like the stage, but she worked the canteen and sold roses to help out. So I'm adding some enamel dots because those are part of the recipe. And also there you had to add wood veneer or flare or chipboard. So I have some chipboard embellishments and I also have flare. And now I'm just adding some enamel dots because you're supposed to add at the very end a sprinkling of enamel dots, sequins, or splatters. I thought about adding splatters, and splatters would have looked really nice in the 3 areas where the embellishments are. So up where the dangly light bulbs are, where the cloud is, and also down by the word girl were the 3 places that I would sprinkle. But I've been out of a sprinkling mood lately. You might notice that my last several layouts have not included any kind of ink splatters, and so I'm not going to splatter anything. Now here you see me doing lots of switching around and trying things out. I'm trying to get a little bit of enamel in each of these embellishment clusters, and it's gonna take me a while to get that sorted out. I don't want to add another, like if I put enamel here, I want it to be on top of something that's already there. I didn't want to add another item there, so I just put the enamel dots so that it's overlapping with that heart. And now I'm going to staple these journaling strips in place. I do like to staple my journaling strips just so, or sew them on just so that they look like they're not just kind of floating out in space. I'm adding another couple of little bits of the washi tape, that striped washi tape. Again, just to add a little bit of that black and white contrast that I like so much. And I'm going to put this little strip behind the little chipboard heart sticker from Pink Fresh. I like that. That looks nice. There's a little bit of it in each of the 3 clusters. There's sort of 4 clusters, but the one right beside her face, I'm kind of not really counting. Even though it's definitely a big cluster, but I'm kind of making sure that the other 3 match each other and have some repetition. So here's how this one looks. And there are some photos at the end as well, and I think I managed to get everything on this layout that was called for in the recipe. So here are the photos. Make sure that you take a look at them. And if you want to play along with this challenge, come on over to the Facebook group and do our recipe challenge. It's the 3rd challenge for the day, and there will be a prize awarded. So head on over, and I hope that you all are having a really great International Scrapbooking Day and have a really great scrappy week.